that they I don't know if y'all are familiar with her, but you will be at the end of this session. So there's three that we're looking at right now for leaders in Texas. The first one is Stephen F. Austin. Then we're going to look where Austin, Texas is named after, who Austin, Texas is named after. Sam Houston, same thing. And a woman named Ann Richards. I don't know if you know who that is, but she is one of two women to hold the office of governor in Texas. And let me tell you, both women were made of steel. And I actually have a quote from one of them. So I'm going to try and play this video. I think you're going to be fine and you can hear it. So make sure your volumes are on and turned up. Let's listen to her and you tell me if you don't feel inspired after this.
Delighted to be here with you this evening.
Can you hear it?
Because after listening to George Bush all these years, I figured you needed to know what a real Texas accent sounds like. 12 years ago, Barbara Jordan, another Texas woman, Barbara made the keynote address to this convention. And two women in 160 years is about par for the course. But if you give us a chance, we can perform. After all, Ginger Rogers did everything that Fred Astaire did. She just did it backwards and in high heels. I want to announce to this nation that in a little more than 100 days, the Reagan, Meese, Deaver, Knopfziger, Poindexter, North, Weinberger, Watt, Gorsuch, Lavelle, Stockman, Haig, Bork, Noriega, George Bush will be over. The greatest nation of the free world has had a leader for 8 straight years that has pretended that he cannot hear our questions over the noise of the helicopter. And we know he doesn't want to answer, but we have a lot of questions. And when we get our questions asked, or there is a leak or an investigation, the only answer we get is, I don't know, or I forgot. Don't tell me you don't know, or you forgot. We're not going to have the America that we want until we elect leaders who are going to tell the truth. George Bush hasn't displayed the slightest interest in anything we care about. And now that he's after a job that he can't get appointed to, he's like Columbus discovering America. He's found childcare. He's found education. Poor George. He can't help it.
That in mind, and I wanted to, so let me dig through like tonight's meeting. I'm also going to be sharing with y'all some things that you can use in your classrooms. So if it looks a little like elementary-ish, it's meant to do that. So you can take this, download it, and I'll try and put it in the chat. If not, I can email it to you. So you can use this in your elementary classrooms. But these are actual topics that you will be covering in EC through 6. So this is from a teacher that did a unit plan on Ann Richards. So they have a textbook that goes with it. And here's the contents of what's all in it. She puts the objectives in here. And remember, this is part of the teach. So you will possibly be talking about Ann Richards. Okay. Okay, so who was she? She was actually introduced in high school, and there's an interview with her, and she says, hey, even when I got married, I married a man that was interested in politics. I don't know how many women that can say that, yeah, my husband and I, we just worked together, went to conventions, we got involved in local politics and just grew from there. Let's see. So she was elected the governor of Texas from 1991 to 1995 and became the second and last governor of, last woman governor of Texas, and that's current as of 2022. Okay, she was state treasurer of Texas from 1983 to 1991. And then she was the first woman elected to a statewide office in Texas in 50 years of that time span. So we think about how far, women have come, but we know we've never had a female president, or in our first female vice president is just this term. Okay, so what a formidable woman she was. Okay, and this is just some of her other things. Really, what you're going to need to know is that she was one of 2 female governors. And let's see, here's some of her other accomplishments. So she started out at the county level. She was a county commissioner, then went on to the treasurer of Texas, state treasurer, then governor. Okay, so she worked herself up. She literally had a life learning, or a life of politics. Okay, so just some fun facts you want to share with your students, and something to help prompt you in your memory is that she was born in 1933. So women had not had the right to vote for long when Anne was born. Okay. And like I stated earlier, she got interested in high school after graduating from college and became a teacher, and would spend the rest of her life advocating for education. And that's one of the other reasons why she could possibly be asked on the EC-6 is because she's a woman, governor of Texas, a teacher, and she advocated for education. She was like, hey, what are we doing here? Let's put funding into school. Let's start these programs so we can continue to help our Texas children. Okay. Let me see what else. So although she did break barriers down for women, it's important to know that Anne did it on her own and didn't follow her husband into politics. So she was like, okay, I understand he's in politics, but I'm going to do it my way too. Okay. And this is just some of her own addictions. I don't think they're going to ask you about her, addictions to alcohol, but she wanted to use her own experience from sobriety to help the prison system and abuse programs. Okay. And we can see, as we just watched the 1988 Democratic National Convention speech, she was an excellent speaker. And I don't think anybody could get a quick one on Anne. It was a good, what do you call those people that have a good quick comebacks? I wish I could be like that. I wish I could have a quick comeback. I have several friends that are like that, but Ann Richards was possibly one of the best. And then that I'm going to share this with you. Again, and you can study this as well. Just don't think too much in it. When you hear Ann Richards say, oh man, female, second and last female governor of Texas, educational rights, prison reform, things that she was passionate about. And I think it's amazing that she's right up there in our teaks with Sam Houston, right? Because we think of Sam, oh man, he's like one of the founders of Texas, and we're going to talk about him in just a minute. But let's give credit where credit is due. Okay. Let's see. There's a lot of information on this, so please feel free since you've come tonight. Okay, I love that saying. Do y'all know who Ginger Rogers is and Fred Astaire? So Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, I'm going to show you a clip of them in just a minute. They're like these famous dancers in the golden era of Hollywood. And Fred Astaire is known for being this perfectionist in dancing. And so she said, hey, Ginger Rogers, his partner, his dance partner, did everything he did, but in heels and backwards. So that's where that powerful, and I'm going to show how amazing dancers, and you may have seen him in something and you're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I didn't realize that's who that was. So that's where that powerful meaning comes from. And depending on the age of your student that you're teaching this to, they're not going to understand the reference to, but if you were in 1988, you would have. Okay. All right. So here's some little activities, a little timeline you can use for your students, see, to help them understand. Okay. And then across Texas with Ann Richards. And then you can have them do these little activities here. It's got an answer key involved. Okay. And then words like governor, voters. Okay. Okay. I'm just scrolling through this because you may want to do this yourself just for practice. But if not, you know, the kids will like this. Okay. So I did get that for y'all. Let me show you a quick, so you understand the reference, because I guarantee you after I've shown you that speech and you see this reference, hopefully you'll connect Ann Richards with just how powerful a speaker she was, what a powerful woman, how she didn't take anything from anybody, and she was one of the pioneers coming through education and prison reform in Texas. Okay. So look how fabulous they are, right? All right, let's see if I can show it real quick for y'all.
All right, go.
Welcome to Ms. Mojo, and today we're your film together. Their dance is beautiful, but their connection is mesmerizing too. It's a reminder of why we love watching them, and serves as the perfect summation of their partnership. Treated to a stunning dance that's full of panache and totally draws us into their love story.
Okay, see, she's walking backwards, doing the same thing.
It combines their ballroom and tap talent, as well as their impressive ability to tell a story through choreography. You can't help but get caught up in the moment.
If there's any a little faster, because they get going.
Number 8, Waltz in Swing Time. Swing Time.
Oh yeah.
Composed by the film's orchestrator, Robert Russell Bennett, this number puts a swinging spin on the traditional waltz. With a syncopated rhythm, intricate choreography, and tap overlays, this is one of their most complex dance numbers of all time. It's a nostalgic and
okay, so if y'all want to look a little more about that way, but that's where that reference comes. Okay, wasn't that just so fabulous how they did that back then? All right, so do you feel like you got Ann Richards? Feel better about Ann Richards? You're like, I don't even know who Ann Richards was. Well, now you do. Okay, so got it. Good. All right, so let's go on to that part. Let's go back to our 240 tutoring of Stephen F. Austin. Okay. He was an early settler and literally considered the father of Texas. They may ask a question and say, who do you think, who was the father of Texas or something like that? And then they may have Sam Houston as one, but they're really looking for Stephen F. Austin as that. And that could be confusing, right? That could be confusing, but some of these things you just have to remember, right? Like, if you're looking at a map, you can kind of like, tiptoe around it, but there's several things. And if you took your diagnostic test, you know that this was on there. just know that we'll know these by the end of it. Okay, so let's look up Stephen F. Austin. Let me go right here. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. Who did I say I was doing first? Stephen F. Austin or Sam Houston? Here we go. All right, so you are going to need to know, I'm kind of skipping ahead, who Jose Antonio Navarro was. You may say, like, I never learned that at school. Don't worry, don't worry. So look how cute this is. If you're teaching K through second grade, keep this, download this. It's just a very simplified version of who you are. So if you live in Texas, then you know teaching Stephen F. Austin and Jose Antonio Navarro to kindergarten students can be challenging. But you could, I mean, depending on what grade, they're going to pop up throughout the history in the courses. So in this, and it's so simple, but like how many of us, and I know this sounds crazy, could point out where San Antonio was on a map, point out where Houston is on a map, Dallas, and be kind of close. All right. So these same skills that, you know, we're teaching in our elementary, sometimes it's hard for us to remember, right? Like if I were like, hey, everybody, here's a blank map of Texas. Where's San Antonio? And I need you to be like within, you know, a couple of centimeters of it. Okay. I'm going to skip over Jose Navarro, but you need to know, well, you know what? I'll go over who he is. Okay. He was born in 1795 in San Antonio. He was an influential Tejano, a Texan of Hispanic heritage in Texas state history. At the time, so in 1795, San Antonio was still a part of Spain. I mean, when we think about this, we think of what, Columbus in 1492, right? And then we think of maybe Jamestown in 1607, the first English colony. Well, that doesn't mean, and we're going to get into that next week when we talk about colonization. Just because the 13 colonies appeared on the East Coast does not mean the rest of North America and South America, I mean, like the French and the Spanish and the Portuguese, were colonizing as well. And in 1795, Texas was still a part of Spain. So why are these people so important? Why is you know, Sam Houston considered important and Stephen F. Austin important? So when Navarro was 13, his father died. Jose had to leave school in order to help at home. He later studied law informally. Okay, Navarro became active in politics. Jose Antonio Navarro was friends with Stephen F. Austin. This is going to make a difference. They worked together to help a large colony of American settlers in Texas. Okay, so this one, Mexico broke away from Spain. So you see the Mexican flag here now. Okay, so this chunk was now a part of Mexico, but formerly Spain. Okay, you're still following me because it's very important that you get this information. This is the foundation. A lot of our Texas history, this is what it's going. So it's going to go pretty fast. Okay. So in 1821, Mexico broke away from Spain. Texas became part of an independent Mexico. So Texas was a part of Mexico, which Mexico was a part of Spain. So Mexico used to be huge. Look at this. Okay. Times change. Land changes. The political winds are always going. So you can see in 1821, there still wasn't an independent Texas. Okay. So Texas became part of independent Mexico. So they weren't a part of Spain, now they're part of Mexico. Okay, so you can just imagine the political turmoil that's happening. Texas began to fight for their independence from Mexico in 1835. So Texas was like, okay, now I'm a part of Mexico. And again, look at this map. 14 years later, Texas is like, man, you know what? We're up to, you know, between taxes and Mexico really just going a different direction from Texas, we are going to declare our independence from Mexico. So in 1836, Texas issued the Texas Declaration of Independence, and this is just a screenshot of what it looked like. Okay, what it did look like. Now, where Jose Antonio Navarro comes in is he was one of 3 Tejanos to sign the Texas Declaration of Independence. Okay. Navarro helped write Texas's next new constitution. So you see how important Tejanos are in Texas history. Okay. And in 1838, Navarro was elected to the Texas Congress. Okay. So when we look at 1838, this is just a little kind of smidge of what Texas looked like in 1838. We can see that it's not really fleshed out like it is today, but we're starting to get that more Texas look. And just like the Rio Grande River is a topic in conversation today, is our border, right? It was a topic with the United States, Texas, and Mexico. And they actually wanted it to be the Nueces River, the border, which is in a higher latitude, higher up on the United States. So it would cut land from Texas and give it to Mexico. So anyway, it's still in the news at this time, just different reasons. Okay. So as a delegate at the convention of 1845, now we're skipping here to 1845, Navarro voted in favor of making Texas a United States state. He was the only Hispanic that helped write the Texas state constitution. In it, Navarro advocated for Tejano rights. He was elected to the Texas State Senate twice, serving from 1846 to 1848. In his later years, Navarro enjoyed ranching. Let's just say he had a small ranch. No, I'm kidding. 6,000-acre ranch outside of Seguin, Texas. The ranch is known as San Geronimo Ranch. Jose Antonio Navarro died in San Antonio in 1871. So he was born in 1795. He died in 1891. Yes, just to confirm. Yes, 1791. So he lived pretty long, right? He had a very fulfilled life. He did a lot. Okay, and this is just where his ranch was, this part of Texas. And there we remember and honor his contributions to the state of Texas. 1846, the county, which is south of Dallas, was named after him, Navarro County. Okay, so here's just some activities you can use for your students. This is elementary. So some of these facts, you're like, I don't remember any of this, or maybe I didn't learn it. So here we go with Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin is a really, really cool person as well in history. So that is a painting of him. So he was born in 1793, and this is where we see why he is so important. So he was actually born in Virginia. Okay. He grew up in Missouri and went to Transylvania University in Kentucky. Okay, so Virginia's over here. So he grew up here and made it all the way down here to Texas. And even that's far. How many of you have ever been, to Louisiana or even to Virginia, right? Virginia's far, right? Many of us haven't been out of the state of Texas. So in the 1800s, so this is a map of the United States in 1821. Okay. And we're going to talk about this territory later, how the Louisiana Purchase, like how it's really just changed. Okay, so is everyone still with me? Okay. So Stephen F. Austin's father, Moses, wanted to have a fresh start. He received permission to bring American families to a territory of Mexico known as Texas. So his father had this vision of starting a new life and bringing people from eastern United States, the East Coast, to this new wildlands, right? It's not new, but in the Wild West, you might think of. Okay, so this is where we're getting into why he was so important. So his father died, and Austin continued to help the colonization of Texas. So in 1825, he brought 300 families. Families. How were they getting over here? Horse and buggy. Okay. So in 1835, so he brings them over here in 1825. 5 years later, the colonists wanted Texas to be independent from Mexico. Okay, so we got a lot going on. Are we seeing how Navarro being friends with Stephen Austin is all this political turmoil is churning? So let me repeat myself. So Spain colonized a lot of the United States. Okay, and then Latin America, and then everything in South America except Brazil. Okay. Mexico was in Spain, and Mexico said, I want to branch off from you. And we Texas, because he was like, I have like 35,000 things pulled up to show y'all tonight. And I just want to show you, this is something still, it's like a little kindergarten. This is something you could use too. He was not born in Texas, born in Virginia. Okay, that's just a little picture of Virginia. Okay, so his father died before, remember, we talked about that. He brought 300 families over, so they begin to settle. And then he helped, Texas break away from Mexico. So those are kind of the key highlights. If you're taking notes, please make sure you're taking notes on that. Okay. All right. And we just talked about how that was so important. So we talked about Ann Richards, okay, and what her importance is. We talked about how Stephen F. Austin pretty much pioneered the American settlers in Texas. But here's a little something different for y'all, and I wanted to show this to you. I'm seeing something in the chat. Hold on, that's fine. Now, okay, good. That's why Austin is the capital. Perfect. And today is his birthday. Oh my gosh, that's so, like, I didn't even catch that. Y'all are so good. I didn't even catch that. How awesome is that we're doing this today? Wow, it's not a coincidence. Okay, I just didn't know it wasn't. Okay, so let me tell you, sometimes when I'm learning history, my favorite part of history is that personal, cultural, like that familial information about him. It helps me connect with the characters, the people that we're talking about. And so Sam Houston is one that I like to talk about. And this is from the Texas History website. So here is a timeline real quick. I'm gonna actually move this over the little bar to my other screen. Okay, so he was born in 1793. Are we seeing a lot of these? A lot of people were born in the late 1700s. It was like Stephen F. Austin was born in the late 1700s. Navarro was, and now we're looking at Sam Houston. So wow, that's so wild. So it must have been something in the waters for them to be born there, and then these leaders. So this is what we're going to be talking about, and this also has in it the annexation of Texas. So he actually fought. Okay, so he was a general in the United States Army. And I just totally clicked off of that. So he actually meets his wife. Okay. So General Houston lay on a pallet. So this is where the power person picks up. So at this point, if he was born in 1797 and it's 1836, he's not a terribly young man, right? So anyway, some was saying, oh my gosh, Sam Houston, the hero of San Jacinto, is on board this little boat, what you call going up the Mississippi. Okay, sailed in the Mississippi port of New Orleans. So Mississippi River goes down in the mouth of the Mississippi, and we're going to look at the map, is New Orleans. So people were lining up to see the famous Sam Houston. It's, oh my God, he's going to die. I just want to see, you know how people are. They want to see the gossip, you know, even back then. Let's look at this big general. He's going to die. So one of the first people to reach him was actually one of his old friends, okay, and who served with him in the United States Army. And so then a band that just happened to be around struck up, and a welcome march as a crowd surged forward to help carry the wounded man off the ship. I mean, can you imagine how dramatic that was? So, but who is this? So this is who became his wife, okay? So he's a little older than her. I mean, are we noticing this? He's a little older than the wife. Okay, just thought I'd point that. So, in a group who was there, was Margaret Lee, a 17-year-old. So, I mean, if we were doing the math, he was like 40-ish, right? And she's 17 from Alabama. But Margaret was just impressed with this wounded hero, you know, just this military man. That's obviously not what he looks like at 40. Okay, can we just say that? So, I mean, it is very, the contrast is horrible in this photo. But anyway, so she was taken with him. And she said to one of her friends, she said, I have this strange feeling that that one day I'll meet this man. Okay. So this is where they were married in 1840. So she's in her 20s, he's in his 40s. So some of this I'm not going to read to you. If you want to look at it, like I said, I'll make this available to you because it really just pulls out that human side of him. So anyway, now we're going to see, how do they meet, or how do they reach Texas? So they set out, you know, for their own adventure. Of course, I'm making this very short. They reached Texas in June, and they steamed around the Gulf Coast to give Margaret her first glimpse of the Republic of Texas. So Sam Houston says, hey, I want to show you something here. This is our next venture. So the little boat continued on until it reached a small landing on the bayou, and Margaret viewed her first sight of the city, which had been named for her husband because he was such a hero in the Battle of San Jacinto. Okay, they named a city after him, which is Houston, right? On the street were two large hotels. So we're in the 1840s. Things are changing a little bit, right? Getting a little better with building. On the street were two large hotels, and the building, which had served as a former capital, was located about 1/4 of a mile from the landing. Some other streets were built parallel at the right. Okay, so this is just telling us, you know, what it visually looked like. Okay. That's just a map of where they live. That's like a picture of their kitchens. He just keeps on going. So he's everywhere, right? So he's political in Texas. He's in Tennessee. He's in the South. He's everywhere. He's growing popularity. And in early 1841, Houston was once again nominated for the presidency of the Republic of Texas. Now, listen, if you got to be a brave person to be the president of a new country, okay? And you've got Mexico, who's like, are you kidding me? You're a part of us, you know, so there's battles going on. The United States is like, oh, hey, you know, like, well, we want to be, you know, close to you too, right? So at 22 years of age, Margaret, his wife, became the first lady of Texas when her husband was elected president of the Republic on September 6, 1841. Okay. So we're talking about how the capital was moved. I don't think the test is going to get in that way. But what you need to know is that Sam Houston was a formidable politician and war hero. Okay. And he was our first president of what? The Republic of Texas. If you don't have that written down, you need to write that. Sam Houston was the first president of the Republic of Texas. Okay, that's just like his lodgings during his second term as president of the republic. Okay, so it's a little cabin. How crazy is that? Okay, that's where he lived. All right, come on. So this is a photo. So this is where Sam Houston was living. And in 1861, so fast forward 20 years, this was the governor's mansion then. So, I mean, we had upgraded that, but you notice it says governors by 1861. So let's get in here. Just a little more on Sam Houston. I'm trying to skim so it's not too much for y'all. Legislatures or lawmakers refused to listen to his views. In July, they passed a bill for an offensive war against Mexico and sent a delegation urging Houston to sign the bill into law. The president did not comment, but began a campaign to make public aware of the condition of the country. And this is just a statement from him. Okay, it is an established fact that if subordination and discipline are not maintained, an armed force is more dangerous to the security of citizens and the liberties of a country than all external enemies that could invade its rights. To make offensive war without ample means, both in money and men, would be the height of folly and madness, and must result in defeat and disgrace, and lead to the destruction of the army attempting it and the disgrace of the general leading it. Okay, pretty much he says this could be a hot mess real quick. Okay. But a day before Congress was to adjourn, he vetoed the war bill. What does that mean? Veto.
Is it like one against it or something like that?
Yeah, it's like it kills a bill. It vetoes, and a bill is a baby law. Okay, so very good. So before Congress was ready to let out, okay, Houston was like, we're not doing this war business. We are not invading Mexico. And this is just part of his home. These are his kids. He has 2 sons and a daughter. Like, I'm that person that will go look at them and look, okay, who do these kids have? And then like, who's living today present that's related. Okay, here we go. The annexation of Texas. You need to write this down. 1846. Texas was annexed. Okay. And you're like, what in the world does annex mean? If something is annexed, what does that mean?
Like added? Or
Yes. Yes. Yeah, added. Kind of like it's an addition, right? We just add you on. We're just kind of like getting you into the fold. Very good. Very good. So 1846, Texas was annexed. Okay. Right, by the United States. What happened to my slide? Okay. But then Texas is like, we are, because we know 1861, let me go back, I'm sorry. I skipped over this slide. Seceding from the Union. So annex means add on. What's seceding?
to take off or remove?
Yeah, to leave, right? So here we are, we just got annexed. Okay, but now we're wanting to leave again. So there's some issues that are going on around this time, and one of them is slavery, and pretty much like states' rights and versus federal rights. So keep that in mind. We're going to go into it. President Lincoln. Now we're switching over to Lincoln. If your brain is just like overload right now, it's okay. I'm just giving you a lot of information on Sam Houston and the annexation of Texas. So what year did I say Texas was annexed?
1846.
Okay. So, all right. So we were annexed by the United States, but then we were like, okay, you know what? Now we want to secede. So there's a big group of people trying to secede. I'm just going to read this slide to you. Okay. Houston's term in the Senate expired on March 4th, 1853, but 2 months earlier, on January 15th, 1853, he had been reelected senator and once more accepted the office. Margaret resumed her schedule. So Houston went from being the president of the Republic of Texas when we were annexed, he became a senator. So, and then he became the governor of Texas. So it's kind of like, okay, I went to the president of this new country, then we were annexed, then I became a senator. So many people might say, well, that's a downgrade, right? You were like the president of your own country. But no, he took it in stride. He said, no, I'm going to be reelected. And then he became governor, eventually again, Texas. So it's like, okay, wow. Think about the life this man had. Okay, so President Lincoln, the cry for succession became louder and louder throughout all Texas, okay, just with the disbeliefs of the basic rights, decisions, slavery, all these things that we hear going on. Here we go. So Houston warns of Texas trying to secede from the United States. He says to secede from the Union. Who are we talking about the Union?
The United States, right?
There you go. There you go. Don't let that confuse you, because then when you get into the Civil War, you hear the Confederacy and the Union, right? The Union soldiers and the Confederate soldiers. But technically, the Union was still the United States. Okay. All right. So to secede from the Union and set up another government would cause war. So, Sam Houston just kind of like, oh my God, I can't even believe these people. We just got here. All this stirring up. Remember, I tell you, all the political winds change constantly. And he's like, oh my gosh, now we're trying to leave? Like, are you kidding me? If you go to war with the United States, you will never conquer her, as she has the money and the men. If she does not whip you by guns, powder, and steel, she will starve you to death. It will take the flower of the country, the young men. So the young men, he's calling the flower of the country, sending them off to war, just going to get slaughtered by the United States. Okay. So, but let's see what happens, right? All right. So the election was held on a succession referendum, and on March 3rd, 1861, the results were announced. What do you think happens? Loud cheering was heard from the Capitol. This was followed by the firing of cannons and ringing of bells. A short time later, a messenger arrived to announce that Texas had voted to secede. Houston's face turned ashen. And when I talk about ashen, what does that mean? Kind of like grayish, like sickish. Think about that. Like he's about to get real sick. Like he's like, oh my God, did we really just do this? Talk about like going in a circle. Okay. So then Texas votes to secede. All right. Well, what happens that? So Sam Houston was not a man to give up gracefully. And much to Mark, that's his wife. We're talking a little bit about his wife. He made one last attempt to save Texas from the Confederate War. So Texas was saying, we're going to break away from the United States and join the Confederacy in the Civil War. Okay. So let's see what happens with Texas. If you don't know, I don't think many of us know, because we still think of Texas as, at this time, the Wild West. Okay. Still being colonized by the Americans, not the Spanish. Spanish were already here. Okay. So the referendum question put to the people had been whether Texas should secede from the Union, joining the Confederacy had not actually been a part of the question. Okay. So many people were like, well, we're just going to leave. We're not going to join the Confederacy. And so here we go again. So Houston returned to his original plan of reestablishing the Republic of Texas. So he's like, you know what? Let's don't get involved with the Confederacy. Let's just do our own thing. Let's just become our own country again. But the legislature refused to support him and further added, what they say, salt to a wound, just make it worse, by voting that all state officers must take an oath of allegiance to the Confederate government. March 16th, 1861. So the Confederate government was the South, right? In the Civil War. Civil War, write this down. 1861 to 1865 was the Civil War. Are you still following me here? Still follow me? Okay. Okay, I know. I'm almost, oh no, we still got time. Okay. So the story continues.
What was
Okay.
the years again?
1861 to 1865 was the Civil War. Very good. Very good. So all the southern states had agreed to secede for the Union. Okay, so they said, you know, we're going to break out and make our own government. So where Texas was, they were like, hey, we're going to jump on that, right? Like, we're going to secede too. And Sam Houston's like, y'all, like, let's please don't get involved in this. Like, if we're going to secede, let's just be our own country again. And everybody just like, all the other lawmakers were just like, yeah, whatever, Sam. Like, you just, all lawmakers in Texas that held a state office must take the oath of allegiance to the Confederate oath. Okay. He said, listen, I can't make this decision immediately. I must have time to think it over. And then they said, you know, we'll give you to the next day. Okay, so I want to read this. I want you to picture this in your mind. So what a big decision, right? He has his political career writing on this. And he's like, whatever I say, this is nothing. That would be like if the United States today split down the middle. And Texas, I mean, like, what a decision that is to make, to leave. Okay, so here we go. The next day happens. Houston's told that he must be present at the Capitol at noon to take the oath of the Confederacy. Instead of going to the room where the convention was being held, so where they were taking these, you know, the state legislatures or state office holders, he entered the entrance through the basement. And he took out his knife and a piece of pine, so a piece of wood, and began to whittle. Anybody's grandparents or parents like whittle, do y'all know what that means? Kind of like take a stick and start shaping it into something, right? Or maybe just sitting there and taking the knife and scraping off, you know, whatever. The wood. It's kind of like therapeutic. So at this time, William Mumford Baker, who was present, described the scene. He said the old governor sitting in his chair in the basement of the Capitol, sorrowfully meditating what it were best to do. The officer of the gathering upstairs summoned the old man 3 times, but the man sat silent, immovable in his chair, whittling steadily on. So Lieutenant Governor Edward Clark was sworn in as the new chief executive, and Houston left the Capitol for the last time. Okay. So I totally skipped over the date where Houston became president. And we'll go back to the timeline in just a minute. Okay, so became senator, then not president, excuse me, governor of Texas. And then he refused to sign over that he was going to support the Confederacy. So his lieutenant governor then said now took over. Okay, so everybody still with me? My brain is going like a million miles an hour. So everybody still with me? Okay, good. Everybody still going? Alejandra, you're still there?
Yes,
Okay, I
ma'am.
see it. Okay, good. Victoria, Amanda. Okay, so I'm sorry about skipping. Sorry, Sam. I totally skipped over. I became governor.
So you said the lieutenant governor took away his position, or?
So when like, you know how we have like a vice president of the United States, like the lieutenant governor is like the vice governor.
Okay.
So if like, since he wouldn't take the oath to the Confederacy, Texas was like, yeah, well, too bad, so sad. Now your second in command is now taking over. And at this point, Sam Houston is old, you know, he's older. So this description of what was happening, and he knew when he didn't take the oath that his political career was over and he was giving up the governorship. Okay. So now his political career was over, and he never recovered from this blow. His children later told of how soon after this event their father became an old man and failed in health. Anybody ever been around someone that's just been so stressed? You know, maybe they're an older person, and you may hear them, maybe they retire and they're like, what am I going to do with my life? You know what I mean? And their health or something has happened to them and their health has declined. So think about this stress. He's done so much for Texas, so much. was the president of the Republic of Texas, then became a senator, then became the governor of Texas. He's poured pretty much the majority of his adult life into this, right? He was a war hero with the United States Army before that. So for him to just kind of be like, well, since you're not going to jump on board with this, Sam, we're moving you past, right, the old regime, and now we have someone new. So his children later recount or tell of how soon after this event their father became an old man and failed in health, just the stress. So soon after the family returned to Huntsville, Houston's health began to fail. His shoulder wound was running sore, and the pain in his ankle grew worse. So his ailments over the years, it just catches up with you right when you're stressed and just being older and all this hitting. But remember, we saw where Houston had lived with the Indians, the Cherokees, for several years. And Houston's Indian friends heard that he was ill, and Chief Blount sent a delegation to visit him. Unable to venture too far from home, Houston received them on the porch of his house. The Indians sat in a circle around him, and they conversed in an Indian language, so Houston could speak their native language. And Houston asked them to sing some of their favorite song. This they did, and he was greatly touched by their visit. Okay, there's his wife. And this is so sad. Well, I think anytime you're talking about death, it's sad though, right? But we must think that he lived this amazing life. And basically, he was still saying, this is what the records show, right? This is what his kids were saying. He was still saying Texas, still thinking about Texas in his mind, even when he was passing away. And then he called for his wife, Margaret, and that was the last thing he said was his wife's name. So she removed the gold ring, his wedding ring, that Elizabeth Houston had placed on her son's finger more than 50 years ago. So his mother placed on his finger. Margaret held the ring. So he didn't, if he took it off, he didn't show his kids. And she, took it off, and inside of it engraved was honor, the word honor. So think about just what we do in our everyday lives, right? Think about how we're making this big impact. So Sam Houston now, do you see how he's such a huge impact on our state? Did I totally lose y'all and confuse y'all somewhere? Let me know. How are we doing? Somebody let me know what's going on here.
Hanging in there.
Lots of good information.
Good. Okay. And this is just his kids later. So we're going to sum it up. And she's talking about like his kids when they pass. And his son actually fought in the Civil War in 1863. Has a naval clue? Who can see it? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Now remember, there are so many things and so many resources for y'all to use. Okay, what does this mean? Who can see the transcript? Okay, so I guess somebody turned on the transcript. That's fine. That's fine. So let's sum up a few things. Okay, let's go back here. Let me get some water. 3 people that are so important. Stephen F. Austin, remember, he was the father of Texas. He literally brought settlers over here, U.S. settlers, to make new lives. 300 families here in Texas. So think about that. Think about when they're bringing people over, people are having children, people are cultivating, and he was one of the first ones, or one of the main proponents of saying, you know what, we need to secede. Okay. Then Sam Houston comes up Okay, and I know I just told y'all all that information about Sam Houston. So